Jujinandra, everyone. My name is Diksha, and I'm the current South Regional Coordinator, and I'm super excited to be doing this lightning talk with y'all. I'm going to start by telling y'all a short story about Shatrunjaya, more commonly known as Balitana, and then we'll dive into a little bit about the story. So I'll start off with a little story time. The Solanki dynasty was the golden period for the state of Gujarat, and the prosperity of the state reached its peak during the reign of King Kumarbal. The credit for attaining this position mainly goes to his chancellors, who are known as mantri. It is interesting to learn that many of the chancellors of the Solanki period were Jains. The contribution of Udayan Mantri and his sons, Ambad and Bahad, to the rise and success of King Kumarbal was substantial. Originally, Udayan was a simple merchant in a village named Bagara near the town of Jalore, Rajasthan. He could hardly make ends meet and was passing his days in hardship. His wife, Suhadevi, suggested they move to a place with better economic prospects. During this time, King Siddharaj was ruling the state of Gujarat, and its prosperity was increasing rapidly. Hence, Udayan thought about migrating to Gujarat. At that time, King Siddharaj of Gujarat had built a new town named Karnavati, or Ahmedabad, in the memory of his father, Karnadev. Since Karnavati was a fast-growing city, Udayan decided to move there. He did not know anyone there, so he first went to the local Jain temple. When Udayan arrived, a religious lady named Lachi was worshipping in the temple. As she came out, she noticed the new young couple and asked them where they were from. Udayan replied that they were from Rajasthan and he was looking for some business in Karnavati. Lachi was a compassionate lady. As she knew the newcomers were Jains, she took them home and treated them as guests for a couple of days. Then she gave them an old house for shelter. Udayan settled there and started a small business. Luck favored him, and within a brief time, he earned and saved enough to renovate the old house. While digging the ground, he came across a hidden treasure. Since he was honest, he took the treasure to Lachi and offered it to her because it belonged to her. She declined to accept it, stating that since the property had been given to him, the treasure also belonged to him. Udayan now had enough money to start a large-scale business. He made lots of money and in due course became the wealthiest man in Karnavati. The state also recognized his status and gave him the position of the first citizen of Karnavati. In that capacity, he rendered valuable service to the people of Karnavati. At that time, the city of Kambat, about 80 miles from Ahmedabad, was the most lucrative seaport on the western coast of India. Politicians competed with one another to get the position of governor in that city. Due to the proven capability of Udayan, he was appointed governor of Kambat in 1120 AD. He held that position for a fairly long period. Two major events have been attributed to him during his tenure as governor. At the suggestion of the Queen Mother, Meenal Devi, he abolished the pilgrim tax of Bolad. He helped Dev Chandra Suri to initiate a 5-year-old boy, Changdev, who had the potential to shine as a great sage. Later on, Changdev became the great Jain Acharya Sri Hemchandra. His loyalty to the king was unquestionable. He hesitated to help Kumarbal, who was roaming from town to town, hiding from King Siddharaj. However, when Kumarbal came to Kambat in search of shelter, Hemchandracharya advised Udayan to help him. Since Udayan highly respected the Acharya, he agreed to hide Kumarbal in his basement. Shortly thereafter, King Siddharaj died and Kumarbal became king of Gujarat. King Kumarbal kept Udayan in his position as governor of Kambat and later brought him to Patan, the capital city of Gujarat, to work as his trusted advisor. Udayan had not forgotten how religion had helped him during his tough times. He therefore used his wealth and position to promote Jainism. As a token of his devotion to the faith, he constructed several Jain temples. 3 of them are recorded in Jain history. During the latter part of Udayan's life, Kumarbal sent him to subdue Sambar, a notorious bandit in the Saurashtra region. In that mission, he had to pass through Balitana. He decided to go on a pilgrimage to Shatrunjaya Hill. To commemorate the pilgrimage, his statue has been erected on a camel's back in a small temple on the way to the main complex on the hill. At that time, there was a wooden temple on the hill. While Udayan was worshipping there, he saw a mouse take a lit wick in his mouth and roam about. Udayan recovered the wick from the mouse, but he realized that the temple could be set on fire by a mouse. He therefore vowed to construct a new temple there. He succeeded in his expedition against Samvar, but he was badly wounded in combat and his death was imminent. On his deathbed, he told his sons about his vow to reconstruct a new temple at Shatrunjaya Hill. They promised him that they would fulfill his vow. Thereafter, he died peacefully, knowing his vow would be fulfilled. His sons, Ambad and Bahad, one was a poet and a bold warrior, Ambad. He became the chancellor of King Kumarpal. He constructed the western walkway on Shatrunjaya Hill, now known as Gaitini Bug. He expanded Udavashi of Dolka and renovated the well-known temple of Shakunika Vihar at Barach. Ambad has pledged his allegiance to Kumarpal and served him with utmost sincerity and loyalty. When Kumarpal's successor, King Ajaypal, came to the throne, he began to undo everything Kumarpal had stood for. As a result, Ambad decided to resist him with all the means at his command. Ajaypal sent troops to subdue him. Ambad, however, refused to be subdued and died fighting Ajaypal's troops. The second son, Bahad, also known as Bahad, was a politician and statesman. He first worked for King Siddharaj, and under King Kumarpal's regime, he became the king's trusted right-hand man. When Kumarpal undertook the renovation of Somnath Temple, the project was entrusted to Bahad, who carried out the work very well. In order to honor the pledge to his father, Bahad undertook the construction of a grand temple on Shatrunjaya. The temple was completed in 1155 AD, but soon after, portions of the temple fell due to intense wind. Bahad then arranged to reconstruct the fallen parts so it could withstand high winds in the future. When Bahad undertook the work, many people wanted to contribute to the project. A list of donors was prepared in order to accommodate them. At that time, there was a poor man named Bhim who earned his livelihood going from place to place selling ghee. He went to the place where the list was being prepared. He had an intense desire to contribute to the project, but he had only one coin, the one he had earned that day. How could he speak about donating such a small amount when people were contributing thousands of coins? Bahad noticed his eagerness and called him to his side. He gently asked Bhim to contribute whatever he wanted. Naturally, Bhim hesitated. However, he said that he wanted to contribute the coin he had earned that day. Bahad not only accepted the offer, but also wrote Bhim's name at the top of the donors list. When he was asked to explain, Bahad said that the other donors, including him, had contributed a part of their wealth, while Bhim had contributed his entire wealth. It so happened that when Bhim returned home, his wife asked him to fix a wooden post to restrain their cow. As he was digging, he came across a box buried in the ground. As he opened it, he saw that it contained gold coins and other valuables. He thought it was the consequence of his contribution to the temple and took the entire wealth to Bahad as his contribution to the temple. The construction project was successfully completed in 1157 AD at a cost of 29.7 million coins, and the opening ceremony was performed on a grand scale in the presence of Sri Hemchandra Acharya. So from this story of Udayan, we are able to take in this as an inspiration to be humble and to never forget who is donating and why they're donating, the reason behind it, and it's the bhav that really matters behind this donation. So some things that we can take away from this story is that there's no minimum amount required to be generous, and that goes back to the bhav that you have in your mind while you are donating. So if you have the right bhav in your head and you're going in with the right mind, just how Bhim did, he donated his entire earning, all of the money that he had. He was able to help the community and help the Sangh. In the same way, integrity also goes a long way, and also believing in your faith and working on the community that comes along with your faith was a big takeaway that we could take from this story. And it's also very important to appreciate those who donate, as we see Bahad put BIM's name at the very top of the list because he really appreciated his work. And he still had the rest of the list to appreciate everyone else that was playing some role into this. And you might be wondering how this connects back to you and why this story is important and why I just took 10 minutes of your life telling you this story. This has a giant connection to what each of us can do in our day-to-day lives. The biggest thing that I think all of us can relate to is something that we can all do, is helping out at your local sung, whether this is helping to serve lunch and be the last ones to eat and thank the volunteers that we have at the temple, or if it's making a plate for the elders, playing with the young kids, or anything else that you can do around the sung. Trust me, everyone notices it and is extremely appreciative of these things. And they're very little things that take burdens off of parents, off of other people in the sung. So these are all things that you can try to implement in your weekly visits to the sung or however often you're able to go to the sungs. Another big thing is living minimalistically. We can do this by cleaning out our closets, whether it's cleaning out clothes, cleaning out old board games or old stuffed animals and donating them so they can have a second life. This is really important because we're able to give back to the community in a different way, as well as care for the environment, which is also a way that we can serve the community. So that's one big thing. And then there's obviously the many options of volunteer opportunities that you have all around you, whether that's going to the food bank, the animal shelter, hosting a clothing drive at your sung, volunteering at an elderly home, things like that, or visiting, writing cards to children in hospitals. I know that's one thing that we've done during COVID time, but things like that are very meaningful. And though they seem small, they have a very large impact that can go a really long way. And without a doubt, there's also monetary donations, but there's many more other ways. Just how we saw BIM only donated 1 coin, but that meant the world to him. So there's no value to money. It's more the thought that goes into it and why you're donating. And with that, Michhami Dukkadam, and thank you everyone for listening to my lightning talk.